Yeah, and obviously you guys turn it around. I want to jump ahead again to Omaha, Michael, because of course that's kind of where your career really took off, you could say. I mean, you guys get there, and I remember specifically talking to you last time how you guys lose that first game to Oklahoma, and of course the rain delay and how crazy it was. And I remember you saying you were sitting there thinking to yourself, well, at least we got here. That was a nice run. But lose that one, bounce back against Arizona State, obviously the Oklahoma game with JBJ. And then I want you to tell fans the story about how you found out you were even starting the Clemson game. Because I remember the last time you told me that it was something that you didn't even know until like a few hours before first pitch. And you said that your mom had ended up texting you like, hey, good luck today. And you're like, what do you mean? What's different about today than any other day? And you ended up
Yeah.
finding out basically like through social media, like the very early days of Twitter and social media and all that. Just again, I think people will be very surprised to find that out, that it's like one of those things that you kind of thought Calvi and Tanner were like half joking in the sense of like, hey, you ready to start tomorrow? You're like, yeah, sure, coach, whatever. And you end up getting the ball and spinning a gym, and the rest is history. But just kind of talk about the events that led into that.
Yeah. First off, I would preface it to say I think males are just in general really bad at communicating, and
fair enough.
and we're also bad at listening. So I would put that on my fault as well. But yeah, after the Oklahoma game, Coach Holbrook, like after we won, he like came up to me and was like, "Yeah, nice work," and I pitched that game. I think I feel like an inning in the third or something. He was like, "Hey man, be ready to throw tomorrow," and I was like, yeah, okay. Like I was the lefty specialist that year. I think I had 37. I think going into that, I had maybe 35 appearances or something, and I think we ended up playing like, you play 56 in a regular season, and then we played I don't know, 10 more games or something. So I pitched a lot. And then we're celebrating, we get onto the bus, and someone else said to me, "Hey, can you throw tomorrow?" Like one of the coaches, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And so then Adam and I are sitting in our room, and we're watching a movie or something. And Calvi and Coach Tanner walk in, and they're like, "Hey, are you good to throw tomorrow? Like, are you good to start?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, but like, look at this movie, And Coach Tanner's like, "Well, we may start you. We haven't made a decision yet, but like if you're good to go, then like let us know." I was like, "Yeah, I'm good to go. Like just look at the TV though." And so I get up, and I'm like, we had mandatory breakfast, and we were at the Embassy Suites, which was a good mandatory breakfast. So Jay Brown specifically asked me, he was like, "Are you starting today?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And at least I felt like I hadn't been definitively told that I was starting. And I don't even know if that was Twitter days or what, but something ended up happening where my mom shot me a text, and she was like, she was like, "Good luck tonight." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she just sent me like I think it was a link to like a Greenville News report or something that said that I was going to be the starting pitcher.
Right.
And so that's how I felt like I was told that I was starting that game. And Coach Tanner may have a different story, but that's when I felt like I knew that I was actually starting that game. But I will say, when Coach Tanner and Calvi came in and asked me if I was good to start, I was like, "I'm good to start, but I would still want to take PP, and I don't want to change my throwing partner," who was Parker Bangs at the time. I was like, "So as long as we can agree on those things, then I'll be glad to start." But again, I still didn't feel like it was a definitive answer at that point.
Right. I'm curious, Michael, again, so you find out you're starting. And again, you're starting against the Clemson Tigers, who had taken 2 out of 3 from you. It's win or go home. You have to beat them twice. But again, we all know what happens. You go a complete game, 3 hit, gave up 1 earned run, but 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. You threw 108 pitches. And obviously everybody expected you to go, maybe 2-3 innings. And at some point, like, all right, let's just get one more. All right, now let's just get one more. And eventually, you throw a complete game. In the bullpen, did you kind of feel like you were going to have that type of night? Because obviously I remember at that point, I don't remember exactly when it happened, but you were a guy that threw from the 3-quarter, and then you dropped down for the lefties, and that was obviously a huge part of your game, huge part of your arsenal throughout your career. But Did you feel in pregame like, hey, I've really got it tonight? Like I could go a complete game. Like what was your thought process? Or were you really just like, hey, I'm going to take this literally inning by inning and see what happens? And all of a sudden you found yourself in the ninth throwing a gem.
It's hard to think back to that, but I would say typically in my entire baseball career, if I threw really well in the pen, I probably was going to pitch like shit in the game. And so we'd have to ask Calvi and Anders how I actually threw in the bullpen, because I don't really remember.
Were there any nerves for you? I'd say that, like, were there any nerves? Were you hyping it up in your own mind? Like, oh my God, it's Clemson. Like, this is a must win. Or was it just like, hey, I'm just getting the start and it's just any other outing?
No, I mean, there's definitely nerves. I think for me, when I always played, whether it was, my junior year making a start against Clemson, or even my senior year, as an established Friday night guy, I still had nerves, and that nerves to me are good. It signifies that you care. It signifies that you're invested. And so I always had nerves, and I had the excitement of going out there to play. And so there was definitely that. I wouldn't say that I took on the weight of, man, like this is a must-win game. If we lose, we're out of there. I can't remember any of those thoughts crossing through my mind. I just really remember Adrian Morales yelling at me for taking BP before the game. And I mean, I do remember Coach Tanner joking, we got in, I was heading down to the bus at the hotel, and Coach Tanner was in the elevator when I was getting on there. And he was like, how's your arm feel? Like, what do you got tonight? How many can you go? And I was like, I don't know. I'll just throw until my arm falls off. And he's like, so what is that? One inning? And I was like, yeah, you're probably. And so I do remember that, once I got to I felt like I could throw 3 innings. I wouldn't say that was like my goal, but I knew that was like a good number that I could realistically achieve.
Right.
And then I got through the 5th, and I just remember being like, okay, let me just get through one more. Like, let me try to do one more. And then it was probably shortly after that, maybe even the 6th, that I was like, holy shit, I'm tired. Like, burping up Gatorade, because it was a humid night. And nobody wanted to talk to me in the dugout because I was pitching. And I think they thought they were going to screw me up. But yeah, I just remember, I don't remember the weight of that moment, or feeling the weight of that moment. But I mean, there definitely were nerves.